Hi, welcome back to Nursepedia. My name is Malia, and in this video, we're going to be talking all about finding housing. Finding housing is often one of the biggest reasons why most nurses don't want to even get started with travel nursing, because it's a big headache and it will often eat into your stipend the most. In this video, I'm going to be talking about all the strategies that I've used in the last 2 years to try to find housing. I'm going to start here with a quick story about one of my friends. One of my friends has always wanted to go to Montana. It's such a beautiful state with so many nature-esque landscapes, and she decided that she was going to just take a contract there. So she gets to Montana and there's absolutely no housing. Like, she's in a very kind of remote area and she can't find any housing. So unfortunately, what is she to do? So actually, that's not a true story, because I helped my friend through this, and even before she accepted a contract, we decided to look at the hospital and where it's at and what housing options are there in that particular part of Montana. And there was nothing that wasn't super expensive, not close to the hospital at all. It was like 3 hours away. So she ultimately decided not to take a contract in Montana. So that's the moral of this video, is to try to help you prevent you from going to places and then not being able to find housing, and then you've already spent so much money to get to that location and now you're stuck. So what the moral of the story is, before you even accept a contract, you need to look at the market in that area. So you need to just get on Google and just search up housing in the particular city that you're at. You need to do market research so that way you know what's available and what the median prices are. If you go down AirBNB and you look at some places and it's like $3,000 just for a week to stay there, it's not going to be feasible for you or your budget. And then you need to really ask yourself, do you really want to go here? And are you really going to make the most money with this particular contract? It's a competitive market like San Francisco. If you're wanting to go to like a competitive market, you need to really stay on top of looking at the websites consistently and daily, because San Francisco and other areas that are very competitive is going to be difficult to find housing, because it's just going to go very quickly like that. So if you want to find housing in a super competitive market, you really need to stay on top of it and plan before you accept that contract in that area. Tip number 2, what's important to you? You need appliances, like a stove. What's your budget? Are you willing to spend? Do you need gym access? How close do you need to be to the hospital? Are you okay with living with someone else or renting a room in someone's house versus having your own space? Make a list of your non-negotiables and keep these things in mind when you're searching for areas. So let's get into looking at different platforms that I've used to find housing over the last 2 years that I've been a travel nurse. First place that I look at is called Furnished Finders. Furnished Finders is specifically made for travel nurses and traveling professionals. It's similar to AirBNB, but usually there's less fees involved, and rates are usually less than Airbnb. Furnished Finder verifies their landlords and offers short-term rentals. If you're interested in a listing, I would go ahead and message directly through the website listing, but there's usually a phone number or email. I would definitely reach out to the landlord with their personal contact info as well, because they may not be checking the website's messages. Reach out multiple times and show that you're interested. Sometimes they have other options. Sometimes that particular landlord may have other options if that space is already going to be occupied. This is usually the first place that I go to try to see what's available in that area. Cons of Furnished Finders is, depending on the landlord, they may be a background check or they need references. So that could delay the process if you're looking to find fast housing. The second option that I look at is Airbnb. Similar to Furnished Finders, it offers short-term rentals. I've used it once or twice for assignments so far, and it's worked out pretty well. There's reviews on the website and support available from Airbnb's customer service. It's super easy to search by the city and the location, and you can read the reviews for the property that you're interested in. One of the biggest cons for Airbnb is that it's usually more of like a vacation type short-term service, so finding a house for like 3 months is kind of difficult. And another con is that it can be expensive because of the fees. There's so many fees, and it often drives up the price of the rentals. Another con is the cancellation policy. You want to confirm the cancellation policy with the host. As travel nurses, we know that our contract can get canceled within those 3 months, and you may have to leave early. So you don't want to get stuck paying for all 3 months if you don't have to. So if you leave early, you need to know what the ramifications are for that particular location. So refunds depend on the host, so be clear to what the cancellation policy is and make sure that you're well aware of that before you book, because you never know if your contract will get canceled or if you don't even like the hospital and you don't want to stay at that assignment anymore. So that's my biggest tip here with Airbnb, is make sure that you read the cancellation policy. The third option is Vrbo, which is similar to Airbnb. It kind of offers some flexible cancellations, as it says on their website. But again, as I haven't actually used Vrbo, I've just heard of it before. It's very similar to Airbnb. So sometimes both Airbnb and Vrbo will have the same listings as well. But always, again, check the policies before you book and make sure that you read the reviews and check the refund policy. Another option to use is Extended Stay America offers short-term, weekly, or long-term stays. They are kind of like hotels, but have better gyms, laundry services, and a kitchen. The pros are that they are pet friendly and they have fully equipped kitchens in the location. There's 760 plus locations across the United States, but the con is that it can be very expensive to stay in an extended stay hotel for a long time. Another con is the location may not be particularly close to the hospital or area that you're going to be working at. I would use an extended stay hotel for a brief period of time. Maybe you stay there for a couple of weeks at the area that you're going to be at until you can find a more permanent housing solution for like the rest of the 2 months. And in addition to extended stay hotels, if you don't need a kitchen or anything like that, you can use hotels. The pros are that there's a wide range of prices and options for nightly prices, and you can rack up points if you stay with a particular chain like Holiday Inn, for example. Of course, the cons are that there's no kitchens or appliances, and it can be kind of expensive as well. For both hotels and extended stays, I would ask your recruiter for a corporate code to get a discount, or ask to talk to the leasing specialist and ask if they can offer you a discount on the nightly rate since you'll be staying longer. You can also try to book directly with the hotel and see if they have any discounts for longer stays or for nurses. I would use hotels and extended stays for a short period of time. Because it's a nightly rate, it's going to be more expensive over the long term if you stay there consecutively. And what a lot of nurses do is they'll get to the location and stay in a hotel for 2 to 3 weeks while they scope out the area and talk to other travel nurses and see where they're staying at. Which leads me into my next resource, which is word of mouth. When you get to an assignment, you can ask the other travel nurses where they're staying at and see if there is any housing available. You can talk to the other staff nurses and see if they're renting out an area or if they know anybody renting out. And sometimes that's a good way to find resources that are not listed online anywhere. My next tip here is to look at Facebook groups. Facebook groups offer so much good information for travel nurses and travel nursing housing. There are groups for job postings and large specific groups dedicated just for travel nurse housing. I would search each group and type in the city plus housing and see if any posts come up. And then you can also make a post just asking, hey, I'm going to be coming to Seattle. Does anybody have any housing leads or know anybody that has a rental available? The pro of Facebook groups is that, often you're not having to deal with an external company like Airbnb, so there's not fees and you can negotiate the price and pay the landlord directly. Some of the cons for Facebook groups are there's scammers, and it's sometimes difficult to search through and filter through the whole entire group. It's not anonymous, and you're not having any protection from any companies. So if something were to go wrong, there's not a company that can, refund you, and you have to be very careful with the lease and making sure that it's furnished and getting all the details from the landlord right away. And another resource along with Facebook is Craigslist. Now, it might seem a little sketchy and it kind of, the website looks very old school, but Craigslist can also be a resource. You can type in the location that you're looking for as well and see what comes up. I would highly recommend, though, that you get a phone number and walk through the rental or the short-term apartment with the person trying to sell it. We'll talk about more in the safety part of the video about how to avoid getting scammed, but with Craigslist and Facebook, where you're not having a company kind of back you up, it's very important that you stay safe and that you don't end up with meeting the Craigslist killer, So we definitely don't want that. Another website to look at is apartments.com. I recently had someone reach out to me saying that they were trying to find housing in Seattle, and I listed the Furnished Finders and all the resources that I have, and they actually used apartments.com to find furnished housing in Seattle. So that's another option that you can look at, another website resource. Apartments.com shows listings for apartments, and some can be furnished, some cannot be, so it all depends on what you're looking for. As a travel nurse, I highly recommend only looking for furnished places. You do not want to be moving and taking a U-Haul and trying to move all your stuff everywhere you go. It's just not feasible, it's a lot of money, and unless you have an RV where you have all of your stuff moving with you, it's just not worth it. You really need to be looking only for furnished apartments or rentals. You don't want to look at all these different websites like Airbnb, Vrbo. I recently found something called tripping.com, which can aggregate listings from hotels, Airbnb, all of the different websites, and actually show what's available. So I haven't used it before, but I thought I'd share the resource. My last resort for trying to find housing is utilizing your agency. If you just can't find any housing and are having difficulties, agencies usually have a housing specialist that can assist you and may have leads that you haven't found online, and they may know people locally in the community that have private listings just for travel nurses. So ask your agency for information as well, and they have discount codes for hotels, transportations, and other things. So some of the risks and how to mitigate the risks when trying to find housing. Travel nursing is a great profession, but it doesn't come without risks. And one of the biggest risks is that your contract can get canceled. And this is a problem if you've already paid for your housing 3 months in advance. So how do we manage this risk? And the first thing, like I said, is to find housing before you accept a contract. You need to know that there's things available before you're even accepting the contract, because it might look good on paper, the money looks good, but then when you go to try to find anything, like in Hawaii, for example, it could be astronomically high and you may not be really making any money at the end of the contract. If you're in a super competitive market like San Francisco, for example, you may have to go ahead and bite the bullet and sign a 2-month lease because the market is so fast-paced and listings are going day by day. So let's talk about safety and how to avoid getting scammed. If you find something that you like on Airbnb, Facebook, Craigslist, Furnished Finders, ask for more pictures or do a virtual tour. Ask them to do a virtual tour with you and see how legitimate the host seems. You know, are they friendly? Are they answering your questions? Are they asking you for background checks, references? The best thing is to ask for pictures and an online tour before you even accept a place like that. Facebook can be scary, but there are legitimate things on there. You know, I've used Facebook Marketplace several times. You know, a lot of nurses use the Facebook groups. So you just have to be careful and cautious. Another way to protect yourself is to have a rental agreement. When it comes to renting, it's essential to be proactive and protect your interests. Negotiate the terms of your rental agreement, such as, you know, the lease duration, the deposit, the utilities, and any additional fees. And again, make sure you have a refund or cancellation policy in writing. Read the fine print, as always, before you sign anything. And there you have it, folks. I hope that I went through a bunch of resources that you can use to find housing. I know it's difficult and it might be overwhelming, but I promise you can find housing for your assignment. Over the last 2 years, I've lived in several great places and locations, and I've really enjoyed everywhere that I've stayed. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming or scary, and I know that you can find a great place to stay and save a lot of your stipends. So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below or email me at thenursepedia@gmail.com. Don't forget to subscribe as we continue on learning how to become a travel nurse and the rest of the series. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.